not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Wow, what a night. What a night last night. Round 2 of the NBA draft. I feel like the consensus, even from Tim Connelly, because it's the first time that they've done in, 40 years or whatever, night 2 on a separate night. And even Tim Connelly late last night was saying, yeah, we thought we were going to have a lot of fun just shopping that 31st overall pick all day. But he said 20 of the slots were determined by agents negotiating with teams that my player's going 39th. And here's what the whatever. So even I do have a clip to play for you guys from Tim Connelly. But just real quick, would you do a 2-night NBA draft ever again? Or are we good on that?
No. It's not necessary. And in fact, and I didn't even think of this, right? But what Connelly said to me, which gives the agents all day to do basically screw with the second round.
Yeah.
I would say now, absolutely not. And the 2-round NBA one-night draft was perfect. It went fast. It was good. Yeah. No more 2 rounds.
It was also super awkward because it's very quiet in there. So if you're watching on TV, you could hear the commentators echoing throughout it would be like if there was a high school graduation going on and they're naming the names and there's also a broadcast that's going on the other end of the arena.
Oh, there's Bobby. Super weird. A little surprised that he graduated, quite frankly.
Yeah.
He was suspended 3 times during his junior year. Had to take summer school. So, yeah, I think I'm with you guys. It was conceptually, I kind of love it. I love trying to just make it a 2-day event, but there was some chatter that the Wolves were maybe going to get a future first-round pick for that 31st pick. Huh. But let's start with, so I think Bob H33 speaks on behalf of a lot of fans who maybe aren't super in the weeds on the second round and roster ramifications and salary cap musings. And Bob H, there's 5 different people sent this in for Feedback Friday here on Flagrant Howls. By the way, we're almost to 5,000 subscribers right now on this brand new Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. So thank you guys for one. But click that subscribe button, the like button here if you like the Minnesota Timberwolves and you enjoy us 3 idiots with our friends talking about this team on a regular basis. On the audio side, Apple, Spotify, pretty much the same as it's been the last 3 years, but a 5-star rating and a positive review can help us keep growing this thing. So thank you guys. It's going to be a fun week. There's more tweaks to be made, even if it's minor. They're going to do at least something else in the coming days. But Bob H says, Flagrant Howls, can you explain what the Wolves were doing in round 2 of the draft?
Very fair.
So, yes. So they, they're sitting there for 24 hours with the first pick in the second round, and there's a couple really good players that they could have just picked a player, for instance, and it would have been the 15th guy on their roster as currently constructed. So they could have picked a guy at 31. Probably would have been when the early second round picks are usually not 2-way contracts. They're usually guys that are going to be on your team. They're depth pieces. They're guys that are coming off the bench as the 9th, 10th guys. So they could have taken a potential rotation player with that 31st overall pick. But they decided, well, we already have 8 or 9, maybe 10 guys, including young guys from last year, Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark, that we want to carve out more minutes for those guys who've been waiting in line from previous drafts. So we're fine with just kind of moving back, collecting some future capital. So what they did was they moved from 31 back to 36 and collected 2 future second-round picks, 3 if you want to include the 36. So they traded the 31 for 3 second-round picks, the 36, and then I think there was one of them was a 2032 second-round pick or something.
26, right? 32, yep.
Okay, so they're playing the long game with that second-round pick. So then they moved back from 36 to 45 for just cash considerations, or they never tell you it's $1.3 million, or they never give you the full reason why. We paid $90 million in luxury tax, and you know what? It'd be nice if someone would give us $1 million or $500,000. David Kahn was famous for this one of those years, 15 years ago. He traded back 4 times. I think it was even end of the first, into the second, because they didn't want a guaranteed contract and they wanted some cash. But they moved back from 36 to 45 for cash, but also to get a player in Rocco Zakarski, who they like. He's 18 years old, 7'3". He will reportedly either stay in Australia or be on a two-way contract in Iowa. I think they're still sorting that out. But he almost certainly won't count toward your 15-man roster. Unlike a player that you draft 31st, even though it's a non-guaranteed contract, it's likely that player would be fighting for an actual spot on your 15-man roster. So after all of this, the Wolves leveraged their 31st overall pick for multiple future second-round picks, a little scratch because, they lost a bunch of money the last couple of years funding one of the most expensive teams in the NBA. And they get a high upside 7'3", 18-year-old kid that they can kind of stash and not count toward their 15-man roster.
Yes.
Does that all make sense?
Yes.
It's a lot, I know.
It's a lot, but it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So you picked up essentially 2 future seconds and going back to 36. You got some cash, which, by the way, is different than selling the pick, which the Wolves have done. The Wolves
that's what
before
Kahn did that a couple times.
They used to just sell the pick, like take it to auction and sell the damn thing and not get a body, which was a problem.
At least we got a body, a very tall body, by the way.
Well, this time, and what I find to be very intriguing about this draft is the Tim Connelly roadmap for the future becoming very, very clear. He is taking flyers on Gobert replacements right now because he sees exactly what we've talked about, right? The advanced metrics on Gobert are like, hey, things are declining a bit, right? So it's very, very clear that they took 2 big guys that they like a lot, sort of uncertain on which one might pan out the best. But there is now a succession plan for Gobert, which I don't think going into the draft there really was at all.
Yeah, and these aren't like immediate solutions, but they are like 2 or 3 years down the road potentially. Yep.
It felt very, baseball like draft where I know there's a bajillion rounds in the baseball draft, but a lot of those times when you pick in first round, like you're not going to see that dude for a couple of years. Maybe some of the top guys now are coming up to the big leagues quicker, but usually when you're picking 17, you're getting a guy that is probably going to be helping you or at least being your rotation or will be there very soon. This one felt like, to your guys' point, it felt like a succession plan and a long-term development plan because you have a really good team right now. It's not like you need the 17th overall pick to step in and, be a savior for you for 25, 30 minutes a night next year.
So to that, let's pull up the spreadsheet of, I'll let Dex do this here so I don't fat finger anything, but the spreadsheet of offseason glory here, where we attempt to put into context the visual here on the Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. We will explain this for the audio side. So this is the big green number at the top is how much money they have currently committed to the 2025-26 roster, the cap sheet, if you will. And then you'll see next to it the salary cap and then the 3 tax line thresholds. So the Timberwolves have $196.5 million tied up in 14 players right now. There's 15 roster spots. So they have 1 open roster spot, which we'll get to in a second. But this also includes Julius Randle's $30.9 million player option and Naz Reid's $15 million player option, which in the next 48 hours, basically, we will know if they exercise those as 1-year deals or if they opt out in favor of some other path, or if there's a sign-in trade in play. There's so many different things that could happen with these guys the next few days. I would be shocked if Julius Randle gets a number higher than the $30.9 million. I think if he opts out and re-signs with the Wolves, I think it'll be for a lower number, but who knows? And then Naz Reid, if Naz Reid opts out, it will be for a higher number. It'll be for more than $15 million.
Yes.
In year one, it'll probably be 20, 22
He's
million.
opting out too.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Yep.
He'd be crazy not to.
So you're gonna have to account if you want Naz Reid back, for instance. And right now you are $42 million over the salary cap, but the NBA has a soft cap. It's not like the NFL where it's a hard cap. You can go over the cap. You can re-sign your own players to stay over the cap. All those things. They are $9-ish million over the tax line. They are about $1 million or $500,000 over the first apron right now. So by drafting at 17 with our guy Yohan, you lock in a $4.2 million cap number, which officially puts you into the first apron, but you are about $10 or $11 million below the second apron. So I bring up all this because Tim Connelly has said on the record last night and multiple times, we are looking to avoid the second apron. So there, on a Naz Reid extension, it gets, let's say it's like a $20 or $22 million number, and you go up from 15 to 20. Well, that puts you $5 million under the second apron, and you still need, in theory, another guard, a ball handler, like that 15th roster spot. So just to scroll down here, I've highlighted the 3 different ways here in yellow that they could potentially fill that last roster spot. You could use the taxpayer mid-level exception only if you can shave off $1 million before using it. You can only use it if you're below the first apron. And then it would hard cap you at whatever you sign that player for, which is up to $5.6 million. So like Tyus Jones, for instance, now he signed a vet minimum contract last year for like $3 million. You could do a vet minimum, and maybe Tyus Jones fits that bill where he's not going to overhaul your entire, but he might start at point guard and just be a more reliable option than throwing Dillingham into the fire, and a more reliable option than 38-year-old Mike Conley. So there's options. And by the way, the vet minimum number is going to be, depending on their service time, between $2 and $4 million. So that would put you up close to $200 million, but still below the second apron. You could also execute a sign and trade for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, depending on what the market says his value is. Is it 10 million? Is it 12? Then you'd have to figure out, okay, what's that number? And then whatever you take back, is it pushing you over the second apron? So there's a few different levers you can pull to fill that last roster spot. But I think whatever you fill it with, it's not going to be like Joe Ingles, 15th guy. I think it's going to be someone that you have in your rotation, if not a starter like a Tyus Jones. And I'm using his name because they need a point guard. He was a vet minimum guy last year, and he's a free agent. So that's kind of where they're at after last night with one open roster spot.
I think the sign and trade with is your best bet, because I don't think he's staying. He's going to get paid something. He's going to probably get paid more potentially somewhere else, and he's probably going to play more. Mm-hmm. If you look at that, I think the sign and trade with him clears up your cap enough to do exactly what you're talking about, and they have no choice. If Conley's coming back, which it certainly looks like he's going to, and even if you're going to give Dillingham his chance, you have too competitive a team to go into the season with those two as your only real options to handle the basketball. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, like, they keep talking about, and I get why, but they keep, okay, we're going to get Julius back, which they probably will, it looks like at this point in time. We're going to keep Naz, which I think they probably will. And we want Na back as well. And I'm sorry, I mean, that sounds good, and I know that you love them and that they were contributors, but it's pie in the sky, right? Like, rosters have to evolve. Certain positions have to be addressed. And so if you are talking about those 3 and you think that Julius is going to potentially opt back in, Naz opt out, but you want him back, mm-hmm. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker becomes the logical chip then to use as a guy to clear cap room.
Yeah, I still think Julius is one to watch here, though, in the coming days, because I still feel like there's a world where, like, Gobert comes back and they make room, Naz Reid extension, for him to be the starting 4, and then Jaden, Ant, and then whatever they do at the starting 1, which could be Dillingham, could be Conley, could be someone that's not here yet.
Yep.
But I could see them leveraging Julius Randle in a sign-in trade or an opt-in and trade for a ball-handling guard that could maybe start at the 1. And now it's whoever that is at the 1, Anthony Edwards at the 2, and then Naz and Jaden along with Rudy Gobert. But then you'd have to find some other way to bring another big onto the roster, because, like, you don't have, I know, like, Luka Garza technically, but, like, he's a guy that comes in for 7 minutes and a blowout at the end of the game, and maybe a little bit here and there. You would need another, like, physical presence guy that you could have either come off the bench or just be part of your rotation in some way.
What about the potential of, and we talked about this on Flagrant with Doogie yesterday, what about the potential of DiVincenzo being shipped out. Now, I do not personally. I do not love that. He's going like he had a rough season for the most part, but it was his first year here. He was uprooted right before the season from a place he wanted to be. I would not do it, but what I'm saying is, it's got to be a possibility.
Yeah, I hate the idea of selling low because I think you'd be kind of selling low on him, right? He was kind of rickety for half the season, and he was bad in the postseason. Still a really team-friendly contract. It just feels like if you give him another year to get acclimated, because he was clearly thrown off, as almost any human being would be, that like I thought I was going to play with my Villanova guys in New York City with the Knicks after what I did in the playoffs the year before. And now I'm just being shipped off right before training camp to Minnesota, and what's going on. Have to learn. You don't get the summer to work out with those guys. So I would lean toward, listen, like, all right, if we're talking De'Aaron Fox is available and you have to throw in DiVincenzo in a deal, like, okay, cool. Depends on the caliber player. But I would just be really careful about a guy who makes $11 or $12 million a year whose upside is much higher than we saw for sure in the playoffs. But yeah, like, Tim Connelly, well, let's play this clip here, actually. So it's like 30, 40 seconds, and Connelly was asked by, I think it was Johnny K from The Athletic, do you have anything cooking right now? Do you have any irons in the fire? What's next on the trade front, potentially?
Yeah, we're always talking. I mean, I wouldn't believe all the rumors that are always written the last couple of weeks. But we're always talking. We're always, until we win it all, we got to challenge ourselves, right? We're happy with the team, but we're still not content with the outcome last year. I think after tonight, the league kind of takes a collective breath, and I think a lot of the incumbent free agents will know soon are they going to stay or they're going to hit the open market. It's an interesting market. There's not a ton of available capital for these guys, but that could spur even more and more trades. So. We're always talking. We don't have anything cooking at the moment, but I think tomorrow morning you'll see teams put up their depth chart, and then those calls will start more earnest.
So right now he's like, we got nothing really cooking right now.
Tim, what's going on? Tell me.
Kind of chilling.
Come on, Timmy.
Chilling. I mean, I believe him. I think right now it's probably all right. The Kevin Durant stuff, which it sounds right there, like he said, don't believe everything that you heard and saw on the rumor mill a week ago. What did you make of that? Was that him being honest and saying, yeah, we weren't actually as close as reported?
I think he was probably out by then. So my guess is that he got out, but of course it didn't come out. So I don't know that the compensation was off base, but I think that by the time, when the reporting was going through last week, he had probably been told by the Durant camp, we don't want to be there. And I don't know that Connelly, I don't think he would beg. Because, that's a weird one. So, if you want Durant for, 3 years, he basically was saying, I don't want to go there. And Conley's like, well, I could trade for you, but it's a year then, and I'm going to give up quite a bit. So, that's my guess. But, this is a man who, as we've discussed, operates in the shadows. So, I did find it, just as a very quick aside here, I did find it interesting on First Take today that Windy is now injecting himself into the Giannis speculation.
Oh,
and
really?
he's and they were talking about it. And Windy, so here's the weird thing.
Speculation.
Windy is not technically he comments on the speculation, but I don't think he now is considered like an insider like Shams is, right?
Well, but he is. But it's like they've been. It's like they're telling him,
right?
Shams is the newsbreaker. You keep a lid on it.
Windy is like a CIA guy. He knows, I don't think he speculates recklessly. I think he acts like he's speculating recklessly because he's been told to stay away from Shams' yard.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were talking about, that things are still sort of fluid there. I believe the quote was something along the lines of the Bucks still have a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
There's something, and I'm not saying it's with the Wolves, but what I am saying is if there's a July or August surprise coming from Fear the Deer Country, don't be shocked. And when Windy was on the Gobert trade, and the fingers came from, well, I've been told to stay out of this, right?
Yeah. Now, why would that be? Why would this? Let's go down the line of things that are happening.
Shams is the beat cop, right? He's loud and he arrests you and he makes sure everybody knows that he's the biggest badass on the block. Windy is the FBI CIA guy who operates very quietly, but he always gets his man.
He's taking his note. It reminds me of that Knives Out movie where Daniel Craig is just sitting in the background taking notes in the shadows. Yes. No, continue. Operate as you are. I'm taking notes. MN Sports Fan chimes in and says, because it's Tim Connelly, he could have drafted anybody and you guys would like it. Let's be honest. And then Manny Gibson replies, tell me about it. Mackey would have a baby for Tim Connelly if he could.
Whoa.
Physiologically, I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Never know in 2025, but yeah, I don't think that's possible.
If it was possible, I would strongly consider it because the guy would probably never miss on any of his big decisions in life, right? You know what's funny, though? Because there's a lot of people that are pushing back at what the Wolves have done in the draft, and let's be honest, like most people, including us, aren't following. Draft Express is following this stuff by the day, by the minute, right? There's all these incredible platforms that do this for a living. Most of us come in and we're like, okay, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos for 7 minutes on these 5 players, right? And it's fun. You kind of get into it for a few days. So, I mean, for me, I just trust Tim Connelly and what he's done over like a 12-year body of work. If you had spent the last 12 years, every decision that Tim Connelly has made in Denver and Minnesota, either betting on its success or fading it because it might fail. Sure. If you bet on Tim Connelly every single move for 12 years, you would have oceanfront sports property. And if you bet against Tim Connelly every move for 12 years, you'd be living in like a sports take tent in the woods somewhere. So I mean, he's been right way, way, way more often than he's been wrong.
Yeah. So, but wait. So the people that are criticizing this or don't like this, have they given what they thought that Connelly should do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in general, the pushback that I have gleaned from like Wolves Twitter and wherever else is, why would you, in a win now window, why, with Anthony Edwards emerging into his prime, why would you draft 2 18-year-old developmental bigs that have no chance at contributing this year or maybe even in 2026-27? And I say, well, you're not drafting Cooper Flagg here, okay? You're not drafting 1, 2, or 3. Right. Once you get to like 17, 20, 31, there's really good players, but put those players on the Timberwolves roster. Are you drafting a player at 17 or 31 that you think is jumping into this rotation and playing 20 minutes a night ahead of the other guys that didn't get, like Jalen Clark was literally the defensive player of the year in college basketball at UCLA 2 years ago. And he came in, and in flashes, that dude was incredible for the Timberwolves. And he didn't play in the playoffs.
That's what I was going to say. Take
a swing on something long-term and maybe hit on the next, a more athletic version of Rudy Gobert. I love it.
So are these people saying that Chris Finch next season, so Tim Connelly takes a college player at 17 after his coach basically didn't play he didn't play Shannon. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr., I think arguably, really good case, should have been a part of the OKC playoff rotation against them. Yeah. But are those people thinking that Chris Finch, like opening night, was going to take the 17th pick and say, okay, kid, go? Like these guys work in tandem. I honestly think this also comes back to, because the NBA draft, I feel like the football draft, the first and second round, fans have a pretty good feel, right? Like if you watch college football. So you've got a pretty decent feel. I'm not saying perfect. Basketball, though, I don't think you got a feel at all, unless it's like a top 5 pick. So I think the problem here is it's PTSD to Timberwolves history.
I also think if you get caught up in like, let's desperately take a player that we think is ready to contribute right now because he's got 2 skill sets that could fit in our rotation right now.
Sure.
Because we're going to be super narrow-minded and short-sighted about this. Let's get a wing player that can be our third guy off the bench and help this team right now. Okay. But then maybe you wind up passing on a guy who's raw and toolsy that needs some development.
That's never
happened. You brought up the ultimate example on yesterday's show, like the guy from UCLA. The Wolves decided, hey, let's take the more immediate path to a guy playing in a Shabazz Muhammad, right? We saw him in the NCAA tournament, saw him at UCLA, whatever. And there's dudes like Giannis on the board that, I don't know, he's kind of gangly and he's like 18 years old. And so what I'd want to know, and maybe someone can put me in a box on this, but what was your alternative? So the Wolves said, and Tim Connelly echoed it last night, we've never seen, like, we think this dude, Yoann Biranger, we think this dude is one of the fastest development projects we've ever seen, like from where he was 4 years ago to now. Matt Lloyd said A+ skill set, A+ intangibles, A+ work ethic, and now he's going to come into a player development system that pumped out Naz Reid, Anthony Edwards, Jade McDaniels, etc. So like that sounds like a great lottery ticket. If you say nope, this is a dumb draft pick, they should have taken player A, B, or C. The next question you have to answer is, okay, so you're drafting more for the immediate need for this year's team, right? Is that player going to crack the rotation over, and I'll skip past Ant, Gobert, Randall, Jaden, like, you know, the main guys, Naz Reid. Is that player cracking the rotation over Dante DiVincenzo, Terrence Shannon Jr., who, by the way, was one of the best scorers in college basketball 2 years ago, Jalen Clark, best defender in college basketball. If not for a torn Achilles, that dude's a first-round pick, right? Rob Dillingham, 8th overall pick, natural scorer.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so tell me what
people just get mad for the sake of being. Let Tim Connelly cook.
I also
is the moral here.
I also have so. How does, if the question is, okay, you guys, you think Connelly's so smart? You guys think he's so smart that you would bear his children, but how is he so smart? Let me be very clear.
I would not do that.
Well, you don't trust in Tim Connelly?
I trust in Tim Connelly. I don't trust his children.
His fertility.
But we're being accused.
I'll be a fun uncle like I usually am in life, but no, I will not bear the children.
But we're being accused of, like, you guys love this guy. Let me tell you, operating in the shadows 101. Do you guys recall 2 weeks ago? So Dukes works hard to find out who comes here to work out. And the Timberwolves have always previously been very hush-hush about it.
No.
But then about 2 weeks ago, Duke's like, I got a list from the Wolves about the workouts. Sort of weird. Like, they don't ordinarily do this. And he speculated about why. Well, pronounce his name again. Biranger?
Biranger. Yoann Biranger.
Okay. So, did you guys see that they went to Chicago to work him out in a high school gym?
To work who out?
Biranger.
There you go.
There it is.
Biranger in a high school gym in Chicago. You know why they did that?
Undercover.
The same reason why they put the list out. Because they wanted that list to get as circulated as widely as. So when Tim Connelly says that was our guy, and you're like, because a lot of times it's like, everybody says that, shut up. They went to Chicago to a high school gym to keep it quiet.
So you have the guy who discovered Nikola Jokic in the second round and his front office team in Denver, and a guy who has built two incredible rosters, one that won a championship. And he did clarify. He said, well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said he was number one on our big board, because there was that Cooper Flag guy. And once you get past the obvious top handful of prospects.
Yes.
And he is telling you, and Matt Lloyd, Matt Lloyd, who was a video guy for the Jordan Bulls in the 90s, and he's worked his way up, and he's helping run the Timberwolves. And they're both openly gushing about, holy cow, this dude is a freaking unicorn in waiting, and we can't wait to develop him. Mm-hmm. I sit back and I say, cool, sounds good, man. Like, if this was the Twins, let's poke some holes. If this was, certain iterations of the Vikings in the past, you'd be like, or Timberwolves. If this was was David Kahn drafting Wesley Johnson, you're like, okay, I'm not sure about this move based on this guy's track record. I think Tim has enough of a track record, and Matt Lloyd, where you would just sit back and say, sounds good. Mm-hmm.
It's certainly not all of them, but there is a contingency of Timberwolves fans that of every big move he has made, Connelly has made, the first initial taste and the first sight of it has been, what are you doing?
100%.
Gobert, the D'Lo trade, the Cat trade. There's always been the initial, not everyone, but a collection of people that have said, what the bleep is this guy doing? And then get the ROI, get the return on the investment. You're like, oh, God, thank the Lord we sold the stock when we did.
Yep. Yep, Dex is right. And then, yeah, you give it some time. Sometimes it takes a year. Sometimes it's immediate that, oh, yeah, this dude is, he's not, I'm sure he'll make some mistakes, and he hasn't been 100% right. I do have one more, but Judd, go ahead. Final point on this.
Cover of darkness. You fly to Chicago. I imagine a small private airport, private plane, right? Middle of the night, you go and you work out Biranger, the French agent, at a high school gym.
You just wanted to say his name again.
Well, now that I got it, I love it.
I bet he just
Sounds
flies
like a
first
left
class.
wing.
I bet he doesn't fly private. I bet he just flies first class.
TC?
Yeah.
Laurie might offer the private plane now,
Sure,
though.
that's also true.
No, it's expensive.
Mark's not going to spare expense.
Caleb chimes in here and says something. So we did our list like a week ago for the new owners, Mark and Alex, of like, these are the important things to focus on. And Caleb says there's something that you didn't put on the list that I think should be on there. Extend and pay Michael Grady whatever he wants. He's by far the best play-by-play man in recent Wolves history, maybe since Kevin Harlan, who left in the late 90s to work nationally. Can you talk about this on the show? Grady is important to this team, fans, and the overall game experience. Maybe get him on the show. Yeah, I mean, he was we do have to get him on the show again. He was super great. His schedule is ridiculous because he's doing more national stuff, and he's doing some WNBA stuff, and he'll be part of, is it Amazon?
Yeah, and he's going to
year?
cut back. His Wolves games will definitely be cut back, it sounds like, because of that.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know if they've settled on the exact percentage, but yeah, we've kind of heard that it's not going to be like Grady every single night next year.
Yeah.
And I think they're still working on that schedule. But yeah, he's going to be almost exclusively national at some point, I would think. But Mike Breen does local game. Mike Breen is the lead play-by-play guy for ESPN in the finals and still does Knicks games locally. So there's ways to make it work. Kevin Harlan, with his NFL and NBA schedule, just had to piece out from the local stuff altogether in the 90s. But yeah, Michael Grady. And he was doing the in-arena, like, was he doing NBA TV and or in-arena stuff for the draft? I mean, they had him, like, on the national platform this week, too, at the draft. So.
I agree. He's fantastic.
Yep. So, all right. That's your batch of Feedback Friday here. And the next few days, we're going to find out about player options on Julius Randle and Naz Reid, maybe even an extension or two. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's 5 o'clock Central Time on Monday is officially when free agency opens up, when you can negotiate and agree to terms on things. So we will see some movement here in the NBA and maybe with the Timberwolves over the next few days. So for Judd, for Dex, for Yohan Biranger, for Tim Connelly,
and his unborn bearing children,
and all of us, his surrogates. This is Flagrant Howls, a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.